Hello, everyone. It is Jaime Jo Wright, and today we have back with us here at Madlet Musings, Suzanne Woods Fisher. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is really fun.
I know I love having you here. It's so much fun, and I always feel like I end up chatting your ear off.
No, I like hearing what you're doing. I think your work is so fascinating.
It's so fun to be writers that talk about the differences in work because we come from such different angles, but yet it all comes down to that story and that story behind the story and everything that we put into them. So it's super fun to have these conversations. But you have a new book that is out this week called The Secret to Happiness, which is a sequel, correct?
It is 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Okay.
Um, yeah, I have a copy of it right here. It's
Love that.
the Cape Cod Creamery series. So the
Mhm.
first one was the Sweet Life. That's this one. You can
Okay.
notice the ice cream theme.
I like the ice cream theme.
Second one, this one just came out, and this is kind of picks up where that one left off. And then I just
Okay.
turned in book 3.
Ooh,
So it's
nice.
fun.
Does book 3 have a title yet, or is that still under wraps?
Well, I have a working title called On a Whim that I'm hoping
Hoping stays?
stick. We'll see if
Yes.
it's sticky.
Yes. I don't know if readers know this, but with authors, we usually, when we're writing a story, we have what we call a working title, which is a title that we call our book, and then we usually submit it to our publishers, and they'll say, "No,
Nah.
no, no, we're not calling it that." So, but
Every now and
every now
then.
and then,
Yeah.
we get one through. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the overview of the book, the series. The setting is great. Ice cream. I mean, who doesn't love ice cream?
Well, the series began with a mom and a daughter, middle-aged, mom in her 50s, daughter in her late 20s. And life has just really kind of imploded for both of them. And this is in book 1, where the daughter was just weeks away from her wedding to a longtime boyfriend, college boyfriend, and he calls it off. And she is just literally sending out invitations as the wedding is
Mhm.
done. She's devastated. Her mom has had breast cancer and is just on her recovery. The dad had died a year earlier. So been a tough stretch. And the daughter decided to take the ex-groom's offer up on just go on the honeymoon anyway. Just go ahead. Take it. It's paid for. He really wasn't trying to hurt her. It wasn't like he was a bad guy. He just couldn't make that commitment.
Right.
So they went off to Cape Cod together, she and her mom. So
I love it.
they're staying there, and they're very, very different personalities. The mom is probably ADHD
Okay.
and just sort of a flower child and free spirited. And the daughter's a CPA and really, buttoned down. Daughter spends her time on the beach at Cape Cod, just looking out at the ocean, woebegone. The mother's walking around town, comes across this ice cream shop for sale that is so beat up and torn, just really ready to be bulldozed, puts in this ridiculous lowball offer, and it gets accepted. So their life changes completely and totally because the daughter feels like, what have you done? What have you done with dad's
Right.
insurance money? How am I
Right.
going to live? You're going to end up living with me the rest of my life. We got to make sure this thing works.
Uh-huh.
And so that's book 1.
I love it.
That's the premise of book 1. Book 2 picks up a little bit where book 1 leaves off, and it actually brings in another character.
Okay.
And this is a young woman who is a cousin to Dawn named Callie. And Callie and Dawn have been competitive cousins all their life, both only children. Callie outdoes Dawn in everything,
Oh, nice.
everything. Just one of those big personalities that fills a room.
Mhm.
And Callie shows up at Cape Cod at the ice cream shop, and you wouldn't even recognize her. She has gone from larger than life to in her bathrobe and her slippers and,
Oh,
in the
no.
shower. And turns out she's a chef at a hotel, which was Dawn's secret passion, always to be a cook. And Callie outdid her there too.
Oh, my.
And Callie made a grave error at the hotel and ended up causing food poisoning for over 200 attendees
Oh.
at a food safety conference. So she has lost her job for a
Okay.
terrible, terrible accident, mortifying. And she's really back at Cape Cod to kind of lick her wounds, or she's come to Cape Cod to lick her wounds and kind of find her way back to happiness. And that's where
Okay.
the secret to happiness comes in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So really, there's a lot of relationships in the story. It sounds
Women.
like women relationships, which can always be somewhat
Complicated.
tricky.
Very complicated.
Why is it that women are so complicated in our relationships? I've always wondered that.
Yeah, so many layers.
There are. And the competition, I think you nailed it when you mentioned the two of them kind of competing too. There seems to be
Yeah.
an element of competition, I think, sometimes with women. And I'm not sure where that comes from either. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right in a lot of ways.
yeah, yeah. So trying to come back to the concept of happiness. I mean, the title says the secret to happiness. So then did you discover the secret to happiness in writing the book?
You're the first person that's asked me that.
Oh,
Would you
for
believe?
really? For real?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes. And
goodness.
it's funny because to me, like, that's the whole reason you read the book. That's the
Yeah, I'm
cover.
like, what's the secret to
Yeah.
happiness?
Do tell.
Tell me.
Well, and the truth is, I actually studied a lot about neuroscience.
Oh,
And
okay.
I have to say, I feel like as much as I've learned, I'm only scratching the surface. It
Mm,
is so complicated, but it is such a fascinating science. You know, how our thoughts affect our
yeah.
mind, what we focus on, we find. I mean, what is within our control, what is not. And so
Hmm.
much of it is biblical. It
Hmm.
kind of, it's like modern day science is always affirming ancient wisdom over and over.
Every day. Yep.
Yeah. So what I learned was so many different things. And that is, well, Callie had this happiness that was sort of a lifelong coping mechanism for her.
Okay.
Always the front, everything's fine, faking spark, faking shine, faking sparkle all the time. And when she had this kind of enforced pause in her life, she had to
Mm,
really take that mask off and figure out, what does it really mean to be a happy,
yeah.
joyful, you can go content. I mean, all those different words. We're
Right.
not talking about a giddy, silly happiness as much as just a real love of life and
Hmm.
pleasure in life and contentment. Well, her cousin drags her to this happiness class at the community center. And there is this professor who is teaching. And at Cape Cod, there's something called the Four Cs. It's the Cape Cod Community College. And
Okay.
that's true. He teaches at the Four Cs. And he is a curiously gloomy person. But he is teaching the secret to happiness. And he challenges Callie, who is this, exuberant personality,
Right.
even in her moroseness, and he keeps challenging her as to what she thinks is happy is not really,
Mm,
kind of pulling the things out, all the props that she had. So
right.
this is a little bit, I'm trying to answer your question, but like
No, you're
little
great.
by little, she's rebuilding and kind of
Mm,
moving to the kind of tenets of happiness that are within her control and things she can do. And so, yes, to answer your question, is there a secret to happiness? There is many secrets to happiness. There's not just one, that's for sure.
love it.
And there's some basic tenets, I would say, that I think are true for all of us. One, that happiness is an inside job, that this
Mm,
belongs to you and you alone. And then there's a lot of other things that Callie kind of learned, like paying attention to the good things in life.
mhm.
This professor had this um, belief in finding holy moments every day. So every
Mm.
day on the beach, she would bump into him down at the sunrise, and he was off to his holy moment
Oh, I love
every
that.
single morning. He just had a holy moment, a time when he was sort of standing in awe before God. I find awe, and that's one of the tenets as well, finding awe.
Mm,
There's a TED talk about awe that I just loved, and it has this curious concept that we are so insignificant before something like the ocean or the Grand
mhm.
Canyon, or pick, any
Yes.
vastness.
Yes.
And in a strange way, you feel so good.
Yeah.
You are so insignificant, and yet you feel so right with the world.
Mhm.
What is that, Jamie? What is that? Tell me,
You
can you
oh,
understand it? Is
well,
it a mystery?
let me bestow upon you the wisdom of Jamie Jo. No, I know what you're saying though, because last year we went to we took our kids to the Oregon coast And there's that moment, when you're coming up over the bank of sand and you start seeing this vast expanse of ocean, and it's just huge. And the kids are like, "Can we run, mom? Can we run to the water?" I'm like, "Go, it's freezing, go." And they're running into the ocean and they're playing and there's sand dollars. And there was that feeling of complete and utter insignificance, like you're saying, and this awe. We overuse the word awe too. I think
Mhm.
we say awesome all the time. And I'm like, let's talk about what awesome really is. And it is when you're kind of put in your place because you're so powerless in front of something that's so powerful. Um, but I think one of the
Yet it
things that I
feels
was
so
dwelling,
good.
yeah, and I was dwelling on the fact that I think the insignificance for me was restful because it did away with this facade of feeling like I was somehow needing to be in control.
Mm.
Because in reality, you're not. I mean, that ocean rises up and you're done. A
Mhm.
tsunami comes in, can't do anything. And I think that release of control is almost a release of stress
Mm.
when you're releasing that to the Lord and realizing you're not in charge. But that's my small little blip of an answer.
I think it's something so interesting to ponder because
It is.
I have a feeling it is the right relationship that we should have before God, where
Yeah.
we are just speechless.
Yeah.
And one thing about the ocean in particular that I find so compelling is that it is so vast and so mysterious and so dangerous,
Mhm.
so calming and so
Mhm.
soothing.
Mhm.
I mean, what a paradox.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Aslan
I
in
was
the
just gonna
Discovery Chronicles. Were you thinking that
I
very
was
thing?
thinking the same thing, like, with Mr. Beaver, and they're like, "Oh, is he safe? Is he safe? No, no, he is not safe, but he is good.
Mhm.
He is
Yeah.
good." I love
So we
that.
get tastes of that. We get a hint
Yeah,
of what lies ahead for us, I think, in
absolutely. Absolutely.
eternity.
My mom always said that when she goes, "When I meet the Lord face to face, it'll be the first time I'm truly speechless." But it was so true. I mean, it's so true when you think about it, going before God, that time when you actually meet him face to face, and the fact that Moses had to be hidden in the cleft of a rock as God passed by because he was so holy in our imperfection. For Moses to have looked upon him, it would have slain him.
Mhm.
I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think what kind of amazes me too is that we feel that sense of awe at Grand Canyon, at
Mhm.
ocean, at mountains, at sometimes even just the smallness of things. I mean,
Right.
just a night sky. And this is a broken world. This
Mm.
is even in the brokenness of this world, we sense that
Yeah.
great, beautiful creator beyond the
Right.
creation. Imagine what lies ahead. It's
I know.
imagine what your mom is seeing.
I
Imagine
know. I
it's just
know.
it's
I
really
imagine that on a regular basis. And you think about the awesomeness of God, and when those moments, it's funny too, because I'll get to those moments where I've achieved that rest or that happiness, where it's like, "Oh, I can just let go and let God just be God and not try and solve anything, plan anything. I can just let him do what he needs to do." And then 4 hours later or 4 minutes later or whatever it is, I'm back at my own like, "Oh, oh, but I've got it. Oh, oh." And, you'd think you'd be so in captivated by that addictive feeling of happiness, contentment, that you'd wanna stay there, and yet for some reason we don't.
it's like manna. It's like food. It
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't last. We
Doesn't.
just keep going back to the source.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, it's probably that might be how he designed it because he wants us to keep going back to the source
right.
and not
Even
become
sleep.
complacent. Mhm.
Now we're very limited. Well, to get back to what some of the things
Yeah.
Kelly kind of worked on, what you focus on, you'll find, good or
Mhm.
bad,
Mhm.
and I think there's a lot to that. What you focus on, you find. Um, train yourself to, in fact, just to go back on that for a minute, what you
Yeah.
focus on, you find. For Lent, this is just a personal moment. For
Uh-huh.
Lent, I gave up criticizing. And
Oh,
I know, really hard.
I've never thought of that before. Oh boy.
very challenging. It
Interesting.
was really surprising to see how quickly a negative thought, I mean, and I'm talking like even looking at a newscaster on
Mhm.
television, something detached that I've never known, and you're thinking, why is she wearing a dress like a cocktail, like she's going out for a cocktail after, like, I
Right,
mean, why
right,
would
right.
you think that?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
why go there? And I learned so much in that time, and I have decided to try to carry it on. Really hard to do, because I learned that a critical thought has like a stickiness to it, and it like a
Mm,
Velcro, and the next one comes and sticks, and next, and
mhm.
it's amazing. The train's out of the station. And when you catch it, it actually not only good for you, well, good for your thinking, but it really gives you happiness. Like,
Yeah.
to not go get on that train.
Mhm.
It's just surprising how what an interesting mental exercise that was for me, to kind of put that boundary on a critical thought. So
Yeah. I haven't I haven't thought of that before, but it makes a lot of sense. It really does.
so what we focus on, we find. So next
Yes.
thing, train yourself to stay in the present and to savor it. So hard to do. Just like you were
Mm.
saying a minute ago, I'm happy. Then you suddenly remember something that's bothering you. And
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
it's really hard to do that. Um, this was kind of interesting, and it had to do with Callie made a grave error, like I said, at the restaurant, poisoned
Mhm.
200 people. Just between you and me, that was actually based on a true story, which was I had learned that and kind of filed it away, because I thought that's got to be part of a novel one day. And there was it wasn't just the mistake in losing her job, but there was the reason she made that mistake. There was
Mhm.
a reason behind it, and that was the source of a lot of her lot of her stuff. And there's one of the things that this professor, the gloomy professor, was working on with her was, be mindful about who or what you let tell your story.
Mm,
So Callie was letting this mistake and the reason for it really define her and tell her
mm,
story. And
mhm.
I thought about that a lot, even in writing it. It's sometimes funny. You must feel this too. Writing is so cathartic.
Yeah.
And I just, when we let somebody else tell our story, I think we have to be careful. That is God's job, no one
Mhm.
else's.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
another, moving on, unless I'm interrupting you.
No, you're totally this is great. I'm just soaking it all in. I love it.
Another thing that this gloomy professor recommended was that every day you play. Every day you find a moment or two where you are just sort of a kid again. You're just free of responsibilities just for a little while. And that is, I think, a really good thing to keep in mind, whether it's just taking a walk, whether it's playing tennis, whether it's
Mhm.
cooking, something that just frees your mind from that constantness,
Yeah.
of everything that needs to get done and all the responsibilities. So
Mhm.
um, this we talked about a little bit before, hunting for those holy moments,
Mhm.
looking for them. And then one of the last things was just really looking every day for reasons to be grateful, kind of train your mind to see something and give thanks for it and give abundant
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. I love that. It kind of reminds me so I'm one of the few women of my generation that has a massive crush on Bing Crosby. But I
Love him.
I'm not sure. I mentioned it to all my friends and they're like, "Being who?" Or they're like, "Hasn't he been dead for a long time?" I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's got great eyes." Um, but in the movie White Christmas, there's a moment where I can't remember her name now, the woman who acted opposite him. She can't sleep. And they kind of meet in this little room area, and he starts crooning the song. But the song is when you're worried and you can't
Mhm.
sleep, count your blessings
Instead of sheep.
instead of sheep. And I remember as a kid that kind of stuck in my head that when you're worried, instead of worrying on what is the negatives, like you were mentioning earlier, counting the blessings that you have and the things that God has done and is going to do in your life, and how that really does shift your perspective, even during hard times. Because when I was even, going through the time with my mom passing away and things like that, I mean, those are really difficult times. But to be able to step back and say, "Oh, but look at this blessing. But
Mhm.
look at this blessing." And there's so many blessings that God brings that sometimes I think we miss because we see them as ordinary, or somehow we're entitled to them and we're owed them. Or maybe we're just so consumed by the negatives that we just literally let these moments pass by. And I've always remembered Bing Crosby for that. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's what he meant when he sang the song, but it's such
No,
a focus.
that last thing you said, I think we get so consumed by the negative that we
Yeah.
forget that there are a lot of right things happening in the
Hmm.
course of a day.
Hmm.
And you have to really look for them. We just
Hmm.
do not have a natural bent toward it. Sounds like your
No.
mom maybe was a little more wired toward that. And
Yeah.
my dad was a person that was a very upbeat, positive person. But most people, the negative kind of really holds on to us. It's not,
It weighs you down. It's like carrying, big bags of flour on your shoulders. And the more you put on, you just get more and more weighed down until you're like disappearing because you're trying to carry it all. And okay, can I just say, I love that ice cream is paralleled to the concept of happiness. Now, it's not because sugar brings happiness, but when you think about, I need to have a moment where I'm in an ambiance of happiness and joy. I don't think about a spinach salad, and I'm not thinking about something heavy either, like a steak dinner or something. Just like, a nice sweet bowl of ice. There's something so refreshing. I love the parallel between the refreshment of the sweet and the delightful in conjunction with that part of your soul.
there is just something about ice cream.
There is.
It is. It's not like a piece of cake. It is
Mm-mm.
just something. It must be the cold and the sweet. And
I don't know. I want to take a moment right now and thank whoever it was that decided to churn milk and cream and throw in butter and whatever else they had to put in there. Probably not butter, sugar. I don't know how you make ice cream, but whoever decided to throw all those ingredients in and get some ice going and make ice cream, thank you.
well, you are talking to people who lived thousands of years
Yes.
ago, who started in Persia
Wait,
with,
you've researched all this,
yes,
haven't you?
yes.
Tell me, I want to know.
Oh, yeah. It goes back. They don't know who originally came up with ice cream, but it dates back to Persia centuries. I mean, we're talking, in fact, I have a presentation I should probably look at just to make sure I'm getting this clear, but centuries and centuries and centuries ago. And then China as well, they found this through old receipts or
Okay.
information or ancient writings.
Yeah.
But in even like, for example, King Nero, that
Mhm.
horrible Nero, the emperor would send his slaves up into the mountains, and they would bring down snow, and then they would mix it with wine, and that would be like one of the
Ooh,
first things. And the
okay.
Persians had something similar. I think it was even called a sharbat, which is probably close to a sherbet. So that's really
Hmm.
the Chinese. It was rice water,
Yeah.
and so you can see it kind of growing
Like
and growing,
variations of it. Yeah.
changing. Ice cream as we knew it probably came more like gelato in
Hmm.
Italy in the
Hmm.
1500s, I think, and then it worked. But the story gets better
Okay.
because it was really something just for the wealthy. It was so
Okay.
expensive and so hard to make. And then when you think you're adding milk, and that's
Yeah.
people who have surplus, that's people who can
Right.
afford two cows, not one,
Hmm.
and on. So I think it was 1853 in Philadelphia, a little housewife named Nancy Johnson came up with the churn handle, the crank,
You're kidding me.
and she patented it. And that little gal changed ice cream for everybody because it was now accessible
Well,
for
yeah.
all. And it went from being just really something for very wealthy people to the masses. And it was served at the St. Louis World Fair. That's where the cone came, because there's this story about, well, it goes back to, actually, it was sold in street vendors in New York City and places like that. And they used to sell it in something called a penny lick, which was like a
Okay.
little, think of almost like a port glass,
Okay. Yep.
like a small little
Hmm.
pretty glass.
Hmm.
People would lick it. For a penny, you'd lick the ice cream.
Oh, funny.
And then they'd hand it back, and hopefully they would clean it. But with the rise of tuberculosis and cholera throughout the cities, that was banned. So
You
now,
think?
yeah, we get to the St. Louis World Fair, where this one ice cream concessionaire had run out of containers, like paper containers. Next to him was a waffle concessionaire. And the man saw the problem, took a waffle, rolled it up, handed it to him, and thus came the ice cream cone. Anyway, it's just such a fun story. All these little steps that bring it right into home.
Can I just say I'm really happy right now?
Yeah. Well, and I think what I love is that it was an ordinary housewife
Yes.
working, solving a
adore that.
problem, just figuring something out.
Yes.
And it's the same style we use it today. It's the
Mhm.
exact, in your home.
Right. Right.
It's the same thing.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. I had no idea in thanking the originals that you were going to break out into a full-on history.
And that was edited, Jaime Jo. I could have gone much longer.
Oh, well,
I
we need to
didn't.
have like a bonus episode podcast with the in detail story of ice cream.
I do presentations for libraries on the curious history of ice cream.
Do you seriously?
Fun. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I enjoy doing it. And just to kind of really bring this plane into land.
Perfect.
Remember this or not, but my husband went to ice cream school.
What?
Penn State has ice cream school. And yeah, and Steve went there. Steve and my daughter, who's a nutritionist, and it's held in January.
Okay.
It's been going on since I think 1893, something like that.
Okay.
Like 120 years now, or more. And maybe more. I'm not good with math. Anyway, okay. And it is held in January. They have a long course for business professionals. All the grades have gone. Ben and Jerry's, Baskin and Robbins,
Sure.
Nestle, Haagen-Dazs send all their corporate people.
Uh-huh.
Denny's has been there. You name it, they have gone to Penn State's ice cream school. And then they have a short course for serious hobbyists or people who are looking to start.
Right.
And that's what my husband did. So
my goodness,
ice cream master.
So do you get homemade ice cream a lot?
Yeah, we make it quite a lot. And for our anniversary, we had a big anniversary just a bit ago, and I got him an Italian.
Oh yeah.
Actual compressor, so that we can have friends over. He will have made the the actual base, and then before their very eyes.
That is so cool. I love it. I had no idea there was an ice cream school.
Isn't that fun?
Now I need to set a new bucket list item on my list to go to the ice cream school.
Our popularity has skyrocketed.
Oh, I bet.
People like having us for dinner because we bring ice cream.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. The most creative I've gotten with ice cream is here in Wisconsin. We'll make snow ice cream. So after a fresh snowfall, we'll get the styrofoam cups out and get our little, equation of cream to sugar to snow. And then we bring out all the different flavors. The kids love to make. It's a complete and utter mess, and it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
It's a nice memory.
Yeah, I scared my kids this year because I wanted to try a spiced rum snow ice cream. And so I got a little bit of spiced rum because I just wanted to see what it would taste like. And my son was like, "Mom, you can't drink that. That's really bad for you. It's liquor." And I'm like, "It's a tablespoon of rum, honey. It's gonna be okay." But I actually
like the way you're thinking, son.
Yes, right. I like the way you're thinking. It's okay. But with a little vanilla and a little bit of spiced rum, it was just kind of almost like a chai latte sort of a flavor. It was really good. It was different, but
I'm gonna have to tell my husband because we're always trying to push him to new flavors, because this was actually a lot of what has gone in my books is this credible information, because I live with an ice cream maker, and he has made vanilla ice cream, which is actually the most difficult flavor to make because it's so pure.
Oh, okay.
Stronger flavors like coffee or your rum
right.
mask any maker errors.
Yes.
But not vanilla. Vanilla's just pure integrity. So he made it. He's made it now 63 times.
Oh, wow.
I know, to get it just right.
Wow. Does he use the actual vanilla bean too? Yeah. This is like authentic vanilla.
Yeah, it is big time.
Yeah.
So really, really good. And his ice cream does not have eggs in it.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah, he really,
wow.
Where Wisconsin, that's frozen custard, right?
Right. Yes. I was just going to say we have custard here where there's, In fact, I just had some today. It was really good. Yeah. Wow. Oh, this is so fascinating. So we have really covered the gamut of the secret to happiness and the secret history of ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we could cover much more and make this any more interesting than it's already been.
He's done.
No, it's great. But the book is out right now. It's called The
No,
Sweet Life.
first one, Secret to Happiness,
Secret to Happiness is the one that's out now.
with
Okay.
the popsicles. Yeah.
Yes, with the popsicles, and that's delicious, delicious cover. Not meant to be eaten, but meant to be read with ice cream for sure.
Inspired. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And they can get that book anywhere, any bookstore, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Baker Bookhouse, etc.
Mhm.
Be great. And Suzanne, this is always such fun to have you on the
You too,
podcast.
Jaime Jo. You do a great job.
Thank you so much for being with us, and let's have you back for book 3.
Okay.
All right.